Sexual Freedom Month celebration here at the Woodhull Freedom Foundation. Sexual Freedom Month is about more than a single night. It's about the intersection of all of our freedoms. And today we're zeroing in on one that underpins them all: the right to speak, create, and connect without censorship. Lately, much of the spotlight has been on age verification laws. And while those are important, they're just the tip of the iceberg. Threats to our freedoms are coming from every direction, often in ways that don't make headlines until it's too late. Too often, folks inside the adult industry think, if it's not my issue, it's not my fight. And those outside the industry, many tune out the second they hear the word adult. We can't afford that silence anymore. Not now, not ever. That's why I'm joined today by two voices who refuse always to look away. First, Brad Mitchell. Brad is the owner of MojoHost and a tech leader who's built his career serving the adult industry. Brad isn't just a business owner. Brad's a passionate advocate who fought shoulder to shoulder with the community in the age verification battle, proving that even those who aren't in front of the camera have a crucial role to play in defending our rights. Brad, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Ricky, for having me on your program today. I'm excited to be here.
You're welcome. We're also joined by Corey Silverstein, a powerhouse free speech attorney whose work spans all of the adult industry issues. His work connects with Woodhull, the Free Speech Coalition, Pineapple Support, and his own legal practice. Corey has been on the front lines of some of the most important battles for sexual freedom, and he's here to remind us that the fight against censorship is never over and never limited to just one law. Today is a call to stay engaged, stay informed, and stand together. So let's dive in and kick things off. Say hello, Corey, please.
I know this Corey Silverstein guy. Corey Silverstein, I'm not too familiar with, though.
You know, as soon as I said that, I wanted to rip my tongue out of my head.
I'm sure.
I apologize. You may call me Richie Levy now.
I'm sure that Corey Silverstein is a wonderful guy wherever he is out there. I don't know who he is, but I'm
sure. I am so sorry. And now you all know who Corey is. Right?
Yep. This is Corey Silverstein, though, the other guy, the other one.
The other one. Yes. Yeah. So let's jump right in. Brad, what first pulled you in to the fight for free speech and sexual freedom?
So for me, I think it was a part of my business journey first, before it was more a part of my personal journey. I'm the owner of MojoHost, and this is my 26th year in business. And
what is MojoHost, Brad?
So MojoHost is an infrastructure and service provider for website hosting. So very similar to things like Amazon Web Services or GoDaddy. When people have websites that are on the internet, they must pay to have them online somewhere, because they're essentially living on a server somewhere. So that's my business. It's servers, data center, technical support, software licensing, things of that nature. So the technology and tools and people support needed to keep websites online and running quickly and reliably. But so to answer your question,
sorry, I derailed you.
It's okay. So to answer your question, I'm not really sure. As I get older, my memory is a bit worse and worse on dates, but I think it was in the early mid 2000s, maybe 2005 to 2010 was when I had first started with financial sponsorship of organizations like ASACP and Free Speech Coalition. And I think my first moment of doing that was probably shortly after my first ability to feel like I was really able to pay my bills for my own family. Starting a business is it's definitely a journey, and I think any one of us that's done that before, we know that it's not a straight path and it's not easy, but it's important to have daily gratitude and to know those moments when you can give more of yourself than just your time, but also to financially contribute. And so the first organization that I became, that I was on the board, was with ASACP. So that was my earlier start. But I think like all of us here today in this room, we're all very passionate about our rights and liberties as Americans. These are things that we hold near and dear to our heart. And whether it was two, this is a timeless love that we have for our country and our rights and for other people. And I think this is why we show up to fight the good fight when we're called to.
Thank you. Thank you. I know Woodhull has been a recipient of your support as we've fought legal battles. So I thank you doubly for your answer and for your support. Corey, what about you? You could have gone into any field of law.
Could have. That's a that's an interesting philosophy. For me, when I was in law school, and we actually didn't start taking constitutional law and First Amendment until our second and third year. That's how it was, but back then. And ultimately, I had already been exposed to the adult entertainment industry via my work as a webmaster and relationships that I had with various individuals in it. So once I started taking constitutional law, First Amendment law, it became pretty apparent to me that the First Amendment, free speech, is one of the most incredible things that sets the United States apart from the rest of the world in terms of our ability to share ideas, messages, whatever our thoughts are, without the fear of persecution from the government. And it was just a natural fit that ultimately I kind of took my combination of my computer technology background, combining it with my my legal background. It honestly just was a perfect fit for me, and I have no regrets. And it's been an incredible journey. It's been 20 years now, incredibly, 20 years of practicing law. And it's just, it's been one hell of a journey. Every day brings me something new. And I am still just as committed to this as I was on day one, and will be for the rest of my career.
And then,
Wow, 20 years for you
and it's
and
been a journey.
27 for you, Brad.
Yeah, it's been a journey for both of us, and I'm honored to be Corey's friend and to be working together for all of these years that he's been doing what he's doing. We've been experiencing this journey together, and it's really been quite a life.
I would grab a tissue and start like tearing up, Ricky, but since we're live, I don't have like a makeup artist handy, so I don't want to ruin it.
I appreciated that, because if you start crying, I'll start crying.
Yeah, you'd have like my makeup and eyeliner running down my face and stuff, and it just wouldn't look good.
I would be a complete mess. Totally. So, Corey, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
You've worked with a range of organizations. You've worked very closely with Woodhull, FSC, Pineapple Support.
Yeah.
How has your work with these organizations shaped your approach to defending sexual freedom?
Yeah, I mean, the list goes on too. I mean, I've been working with FIRE. I've been working with countless other organizations as well. And I don't want to leave them out because it would be mean, but ultimately, my work with these organizations has taught me very much so that we are, as an industry, a minority. We're a minority in terms of, where we are in the world. There are various other industries that are much larger, have much more people, resources, et cetera. But what I can tell you is that what I've learned from the people in this industry is that I believe we have the strongest voices, and I believe we have the loudest voices. We have continuously, as an industry, through the various organizations, through obviously Woodhull, Ricky, and your efforts, and the Free Speech Coalition has done an incredible job, and I'm very proud with Brad. Actually, we're both board members on Pineapple Support, and the work that we've seen to that regard has helped thousands at this point of people in our industry who desperately needed assistance. So, for me, it's all about, I like the fact that we're standing up for the minority. I like to fight from the ground up. I like the fact that, we have to be louder than everyone else, and we have to work a lot harder to get people to pay attention to us, to view us as their equals. A lot of people out there, Ricky, try to make people in the adult entertainment community almost second-class citizens, almost as though they count less as everyone else. And these organizations have, been steadfast in their position to say that, no, we are not the minority. We're actually louder. We're greater. We're people just like the rest of you. And we have the rights to make our own decisions, do what we want with our body, display our own art. And to me, that's what I've really been able to learn from everyone else. And it's what pushes me forward.
I have enjoyed your passion on all of these issues that we're all dealing with today. Your passion and your perspective. When people were about to fall off a cliff, you were the voice of reason that said, whoa, 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 this is not happening today. And that made it even more important when you said, okay, people, this is happening today.
Listen, people have been attacking the adult entertainment industry, Ricky, since man first was able to stand up and hold a billy club. This isn't exactly new to us. The adult entertainment industry has been under a grotesque amount of attacks from various different sources. It doesn't matter whether it's government, or private parties, church groups, list goes on, as to who it's been. But the fact is that we've persevered. We've persevered, and we've continued to persevere, and we've continued to survive, and that's not going to change. And my message has always been the same. The sky is not falling. Tomorrow the sun will rise, and we will take on whatever challenges we're faced with as a community.
Brad, you've served this community for 27 years. I don't think, certainly in the time that I've been involved in advocacy, which is most of my life, I don't think the attacks have ever been as coordinated and transparent as they are today. You see a different side of what's happening than, say, I do in my advocacy, or Corey does in his legal work. You see the impact on the individual platforms, the small websites, the people who host on your beautiful servers, which just look so beautiful behind you, by the way. What impact are you seeing on these age verification laws, on the chilling of free speech online?
Sure. So I think something that's difficult for ordinary people and those that are not so intimately familiar with the whole landscape of the internet to understand, really the largest impact is on what I would like to call Main Street. While it's easy in headlines to focus on some of the largest websites, I would say this is very much like the comparison to, of course, in North America, most cities and states, we have Walmarts, we have, very large places to go shopping. But for each one of those, there are hundreds more small family-owned and operated businesses, small businesses, good entrepreneurs. I mean, really at the heart of the love of being an American and what we do, my passion is for entrepreneurship. And, the most beautiful thing I think about being an American is how there are so many so much opportunity, such the ability to have a dream and follow a passion and start a business. And everybody starts small. Everybody starts from zero. I know I did, and certainly Corey did also. And what I see lately, as some of the first impact from these changes, is a lot of small businesses just deciding that the technology and cost requirements are no longer bearable. There's this new complexity that's been introduced to stay in compliance with the many states which have passed legislation. And so a lot of small stores are closing up. But unique to that is a lot of these entrepreneurs, they aren't as obvious. They're not even stores. A lot of them, they run blog sites, they run review sites, they run forums where people can share their experiences and talk about them. And those are fundamentally, with the changes in legislation, those are the businesses that cease to exist because they can't pay at scale for someone to come and read their newspaper. I mean, it's not a newspaper, but being analogous. And especially when you start talking about small business, because somebody has to pay to age verify, right? Otherwise,
Right.
compliance is, of course, to block the geography so that way you're immune from a legal consequence. But this is very much like if you had to pay to walk into a bookstore and look at the thousands or tens of thousands of books that were there, to then choose to buy one or to rent something on demand. So it's a big change to things. And I also see at the other end of the spectrum with larger and more mature businesses, of course, some of this trends with the increased use of AI and new technologies that we're able to do some things a bit more efficiently. So there's some natural attrition in labor forces. But it is certainly the case that on the side of larger business, these laws break the internet because it's not as simple as, there is a website. The journey on the internet is, how do you find the website? How do you get there? And oftentimes people aren't traveling straight from a Google or somewhere else there. It's like walking or hopping from one website to another, and they do this through advertisements. They do this from looking at perhaps free samples and other things. They do this from looking at review sites. And so the whole ecosystem is really damaged and fractured. And the real chilling effect is going to be when the sites and information are either no longer accessible in also many geographies, or, really, I think the most chilling is that when they're de-indexed from places like Google and other information sources where an entrepreneur would hope that their websites might be indexed.
Corey, if I understand this right, and I think I do, because the age verification laws vary from one state to another, the requirements, a website has to comply. Somebody logs into a website and the platform has to know where the person is coming from and what the requirements are for that state and follow those requirements for that one individual.
Yeah, that's correct. Each state law has very specific intricacies, and unfortunately, the intricacies can sometimes be extremely varying from one state to another. This has created a little bit of confusion in the industry right now because a lot of folks out there think that if they're complying with one age verification law, they're complying with them all. And it's not just a U.S. based problem anymore, Ricky. It's now a worldwide problem. The United Kingdom, France, Germany, various other countries in Europe have gotten very aggressive as well. The entire notion of age verification. I mean, we can talk all day long, Ricky, about my feelings on it. I still believe that the United States laws are unconstitutional and violate the First Amendment. Now, the United States Supreme Court disagreed with me in the Paxton case, and you know, I had to lick my wounds there a little bit, but just because they ruled a certain way doesn't mean that I agree with the way they ruled. I don't agree with the Supreme Court's ruling, but unfortunately, I'm not the Supreme Court, and so, you know, my power and my, you know, beliefs only go so far. But ultimately, age verification remains a major um, hurdle for those individuals that are trying to exercise their free speech and to view the content they want to view in private, and for websites to show the content that they want to show, for the individual performer that wants to broadcast herself, himself. You know, it's the entire concept is just outright broken, and it's unfortunate that the Supreme Court didn't see it the way I did. But we are where we are.
All of that processing, Brad, does that takes up more bandwidth, doesn't it? All of the tracking.
So not exactly that. So what it really is, though, it is a super technical challenge, because as Corey had indicated, you know, there are so many states with these laws, and they're all just slightly different. And the technical implementation is deep and complicated, and very hands-on for our customers. You know, the average customer doesn't just have perhaps one domain; they might have tens or dozens, and then so it's become so important. And you know, organizations like the Free Speech Coalition and the ASACP have been very helpful to release updated guidelines of which states, so that members people in our industry can have a good solid resource to find reliable information about how to stay compliant. For us as a service provider, because we don't operate any of our customers' websites. We provide technical support. They rent servers, and they do things like issue support tickets, right? So, for example, if a client wanted to block an entire state, they would, you know, if they have their own technical team, they would figure out how to do this themselves. Most do not. So that means they would create a support ticket and share with us what it is they're trying to do, and then we would help them find the best way to do that. You know, and one of the real big challenges here, Ricky, is that even in today's state, the technology is not easy, because the best GeoIP databases and information, there's free versions and there are also paid versions, but neither one of those are 100% accurate. So accurate on a country by country level, yes, sure. But from state to state, or, you know, if you live in a city that borders another state, there's a lot of inaccuracies and challenges in there. And so it's our hope that as different states might seek enforcement or compliance, that they apply an appropriate level of reasoning to the technical limitations that everybody faces, because I think the litmus test there should be, you know, did sites make a good faith effort and use best practices to accomplish compliance? So, but the technology is absolutely imperfect. It's well documented.
That's what I thought. What a nightmare. What a nightmare. So I'll start with you, Corey, but then I'm going to ask you too, Brad. Sometimes when I talk to people who I work with on a different issue, and I talk to them about the adult industry and about the censoring of adult content, the response is essentially, I don't watch porn, and I just don't think that's vital to anybody's life. And I really don't care. I mean, that's not a high priority for me with everything going on in the world right now. How do you make this issue relevant and important to people who may not really care much about adult content or censoring of adult websites? Start with you, Corey.
It's easy for someone, Ricky, with no skin in the game, no pun intended, to take the position that, I don't really care. I don't watch it. I don't consume it. So whatever happens, happens to them. And, so we don't really care whether their First Amendment rights are being trampled on. It's a whole other thing that people need to understand, that it's a very slippery slope and things happen very quickly. And when you start going down this path of censorship, okay, today it's adult, tomorrow it's something else, the day after it's something else, until eventually it hits an issue that person that didn't care about the adult entertainment industry, all of a sudden it affects something they do care about. And they're like, man, I really wish we'd fought back on that. Every government action, no matter how small or seemingly minute, that limits the human person's ability to view what they want to view, watch what they want to watch, share what they want to share, is just another step down the path of government control and government censorship. That is why when the First Amendment was drafted, they were smart enough to realize that it was key to protecting what they viewed as a free United States and a free people who would be able to express themselves and talk openly, regardless of whether we agree or disagree with it. That gets lost a lot, Ricky. A lot of times people get lost in the fact, well, I don't like the message, and so because I don't like that message, they shouldn't be able to share it. No, that's not how it works.
Right.
The way it works is anyone should be free to speak whatever they want to speak, view whatever they want to view, without big brother government saying you can't do that. And each time we just, it's like each time we take a little corner out of it, a little bite, another small jab, that it gets smaller and smaller. And so for the person that's sitting out there saying, well, I don't care about, adult entertainment, I don't care about porn, I don't watch it. Well, I'd like to see that person's opinion the next time they're on, social media, for example, mainstream social media, and they try to put up a picture of their family vacation, and in that picture, maybe one of the people in their family an adult doesn't happen to be fully dressed. Maybe they're wearing a revealing bathing suit or something of that nature, and all of a sudden their social media account gets taken offline completely. That's not new, Ricky. That's happening now. And this,
Right.
again, is the continuation of the dangerous trend that we're seeing right now, where we continue to see, speech across the board being limited and controlled. And so, it's already happening. So my message to those people in response to your question is that, hey, you might not care about porn, but you know what? You might want to pay close attention to what's going on, because you are going to care about it pretty soon when you can't post what you want to post, whether it's a family picture, whether it's a picture of you being too revealing and showing off your new, muscular body after, substantial weight loss, or who knows what. The list goes on. It's just, we continue to play this game of like pushing that line to, where's the line? And when you do that, you end up with catastrophic results.
Any censored speech becomes government speech.
Well, that's
Anytime we can't talk, that only leaves the government to speak.
But I mean, look, Ricky, as you know, I mean, you've traveled the world, you've spoken across the world about these issues, and we all know that there are various countries in the world where if you do certain things in terms of speaking your mind or giving an opinion that is different to that government, not only could you be incarcerated, but you can be killed. And there's still plenty of places in the world that hold those ridiculous philosophies. Now, I'm not suggesting that, okay, that's where we are in the US, that, there's a chance that you could be killed for something that you say. But at the same time, if you look at recent events and you follow the news, you can see that, there's a lot of people right now that are very passionate about whatever position it is they have. And when the government gets involved and starts saying what you can't say and can say, that unfortunately leads to people lashing out, which in turn ultimately leads to violence. It's an unfortunate truth. I don't agree with it, but it's an unfortunate truth.
I agree. I see too many of the things history has shown us and the things we've seen in other countries that are happening here now.
Yep. Anybody who wasn't traumatized by, the recent assassination of a certain social media personality, it's anyone who wasn't completely traumatized by that, no matter which way you feel about, the issues that he felt about, it's a horrific moment for the world.
Agreed. Brad, what's your answer for people who say it's adult? There are more important things.
So, of course, I agree with everything that Corey said, and I really believe also at the same time that, much in the same vein like Corey said, I actually disagree with Corey, but I think we're much closer to complete censorship. I think that if people truly understood what I think most of us agree, what makes America great is our freedom and this right that we have for free speech is for me what I hold near and dear. And this does not exist in most places in the world. And the difference between what separates those who are here and in all other Western countries and civilizations where we have the same ideologies is very often, if you look at a map and you look at Wikipedia and you look at the map of sexual rights and freedom and where a porn may or may not be legal to be viewed or produced, it's exactly the map of the free world.
Mm.
It is exactly that everywhere, and less than even, because of course some of these countries which are democratic do not perhaps have those rights. But me, I don't choose to be behind a camera or in front of my camera, but I think the greatest pride that we have as an American is that I could make that choice. And as an adult, I respect somebody else's choice to make those decisions for themselves. I think where all of this is off the rails isn't about age verification. You could ask anybody in the adult industry, and not a single person has an interest in underage or minors seeing adult content or material. The issue at the heart of it, that we believe, is that it was all gone about in the wrong way. I think the best analogy that I would give, and of course others will have different opinions, is I would no sooner give one of my children keys to go drive the car at an age of less than 16 or whatever might be in somebody else's state that they live in, then I would let them be on the internet. The whole point of the internet is information and freedom and access, and that takes a maturity. And I believe that this is our right as adults, and what we are doing now is we're dumbing it down and we're going the opposite way with these kinds of restrictions when, in fact, we don't need or require artificial technology or new technologies to prevent minors from accessing adult content and material. Adult websites have been labeling themselves proactively for 20 or 25 years already with the RTA label, which is available freely by the ASACP. It doesn't require any new or different browser technology to do filtering. The technologies were already in existence. And I think what we saw here was obviously a very successful shortcut by political parties and nonprofits that were interested just to see everything go away, because they didn't want to have the fight with big tech. So what did they do? They pick on us, when really it's absolutely the case that every single device that's being used right now knows whether it's Brad's phone, Corey's phone, or, for example, one of my children's phones.
Right.
There was another way to go about this that would have been more effective, because see, now the problem is what we're doing is we're punishing good Americans and good business owners and great people with ideas and good, honest people that do ethical, moral business. We're making them criminals. And guess what happens? When you can't click and view a site from, let's say, for example, a Google search in the state that you live, and if you were a minor, what will you probably do? you will click the back button and you will click the next link, and you will continue to do this until you receive a result to see something. And what you will see is everything else that is freely available in the rest of the world, except from in North America, for 100 million or a billion pages on the internet, right? So we've made things worse because the best content that is available is by those professional businesses and organizations that are located here and in Western Europe and in Canada and all these countries that are publishing. And with all of these new restrictions, now what will be perhaps, if there's a funnel that's bringing traffic down to places that are still accessible, it's going to bring them to sites that have worse content
that are
and
horrifying.
other things, and no jurisdictional responsibility for compliance or even good business practices.
You know, I find it fascinating that parents don't want to be told what their children will learn in school, don't want to be told what their children can read in school, don't want to be told about whether they should or shouldn't give a child a vaccine, but they're perfectly happy for the government to control what they can see online. To me, that's a little disconnect. I want to address some questions from the audience. The first one I think is to you, Brad. What do you think about zero knowledge proof technology? It might be to both of you. How could this help or hurt the industry?
Corey, do you?
To be completely candid with you, I'm not totally sure I understand the question.
Yeah, I'm not. I think that I understand the question, but I really only want to answer it if I think I could give the best answer. I think this is probably a reference to business practices and technologies that could be enabled on a website to essentially not keep record of who did what. Corey, I mean, I'm just not.
Perhaps the person who asked will clarify a little bit more.
We need a little clarification on the question.
We'll circle back. Yeah, I didn't even jump in there because didn't know anything. But here's another question. We have to look at censorship affects sex workers of color, especially when it starts with what makes America great. What shapes the narrative of the adult content worth defending?
I don't think I totally understand the question, but I would answer it this way, Ricky. And I would say that it's all adult content. There is no black, white, blue, green, purple, male, female, it doesn't matter. All adult content needs to be defended. It doesn't attack against anyone in this industry, regardless of sex, creed, religion, color, race, religion, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's attack against all.
I would say confidently that any entrepreneur in the space, I've been doing this, I guess, a very, very long time, but everyone's passionate about, there's something for everybody there, and embracing diversity is something that's always, I think this is an industry that's always done that. Of course, challenges along the way because there's different publishers, right? And different demographics of buyers and surfers, and also of those who may or may not have interest in producing content. But it's always been my experience that we're fiercely defending and interested in all types of content that are documented properly with age validation and the right kinds of ethics and morals and best business practices when it comes to making certain that those participating in content production are aware of what's going to happen when the content is produced, that nobody's ever surprised, and that as long as content is not obscene and it has informed consent, it's nobody's business to judge any such thing as color, size, shape, or niche fetishes and those such things, as long as it's legal and not obscene, right, Corey?
Yeah, it's can't really disagree.
So we have clarification on that zero knowledge proof technology. They're asking about tech that does not keep a record of the user of the site, that maintains privacy while age verifying.
Well, here's the problem there. The problem there is that you're going to run into all sorts of other issues, because for websites that are processing credit cards, Visa, MasterCard, and the banks are going to require that the websites maintain certain data. So yes, and of course, in an ideal world, you would love to be, visiting a website where, you have absolute, zero knowledge, etc. But unfortunately, that isn't really practical. The websites that are publishing content are still, for-profit businesses. They're still in the business of making money, and unfortunately, as much as I think it would be great to have that freedom and have that protection, the fact is that then platforms really wouldn't be able to exist. They wouldn't be able to comply with banking regulations, Visa, MasterCard regulations. They wouldn't be able to comply with various different KYC, know your customer rules, and so forth. So, but I understand the question, and I don't think it's in this current world. I just don't think it's possible.
I would further add to that. Part of the challenge that we see our customers having is there are many vendors that are selling solutions, and we don't know all of them very well. Many of them, most of them, are from outside of the country. There's a lot of technology providers in the United Kingdom, and in technology, the devil, so to speak, is always in the details. It's very hard to understand exactly what's going on, because with so many different service providers and so little time to implement these solutions and to vet them, there's really a challenge in that, because we're talking about highly technical and complicated implementations, and essentially small and medium and large business owners with sand in an hourglass running out in terms of how quickly they have to comply. It's very difficult. So there's a lot of course, so what are business owners doing? They're making the best choices that they think that they can for each of their individual businesses, but they're certainly hoping that the information that they're being presented by these providers is correct and accurate, and that things work the way that they say that they do. And I'm sure, just like anywhere else in the mainstream technology world, that in time we will discover some things were not as they were supposed to be, that some solutions were not perhaps as private or double blind or immune. I think each of us has had all of our personal information probably stolen and hacked. Gosh, we don't even know how many times, hundreds of times, from all of everything from hospitals and online shopping experiences. And it is reasonable to assume that the same thing will in time happen as it affects this vertical market, with all of these new technology solutions that are being deployed, which is a scary thing, because I believe underneath all of that, the biggest worry that we all have is that if the information is not kept safe and secure, that we then become personally vulnerable. And that's the biggest fear, and perhaps the worst outcome when we start talking about sexual freedoms, is that it might be weaponized against us in a data breach. Because should not everybody have their right to look at legal and consensual material of any sort and have that to be completely private? Of course they should.
Of course they should. Of course they should. And with all of the requirements and technologies and reporting, I have zero confidence that my browsing history isn't already in somebody's hands that I don't want to have it. Two halves in the same sentence. Bad grammar, but you get the idea. But yes. Yeah. It's not fun, right? So, Brad, what do you say to other business owners who don't want to get involved in advocacy or politics, or who are hesitant?
It's a tough one. each time I have the opportunity when I'm speaking at industry events, I always take it upon myself to call on each of those in the audience to participate at any level that they can, whether it's uh, small financially or larger, or with effort and time, or with um, spaces to make our community voices heard better. But it really is everyone's responsibility. But what's happened now is these are very frightening laws in a lot of places, and in my opinion, many of them not written well. And everybody's afraid, and afraid to have a voice and have a voice publicly. And this must be the start of what it's like to be someplace that changes slowly, but then you end up somewhere that you did not expect that you were going to live. You know, it's only really in I'm 50 years old now since last week, and
Happy birthday.
thank you. And I don't remember so much conversation about politics, when I was a child. It wasn't a big thing in my household, except that, sometimes you make a vote and the candidate you choose wins, and sometimes you make a vote and they lose. But this is why we have the system that we've built, which resets itself every 4 years. And it should be the case, or at least I had always felt it was the case, that we can live peacefully together, that this is the beauty of American existence, is that we can agree to disagree and we can move on and we can be bigger than that, and I think the challenge with all of this is people are afraid to stick out of the crowd, so to speak, because they're afraid that they're putting their head on the chopping block, quite literally, to make themselves sexy or interesting to prosecutors of different jurisdictions.
But
Nobody wants to be on a radar, but
right.
we can't fight this alone. We do need financial support. I remember very vividly the day that Corey and I had a phone call, and which was when I begged him on the phone. I said, "This is my time. I want this. Don't let anybody else do this." It was to support you and Woodhull. I mean,
Thank you.
Corey, I felt like it was for me, it was for us, and not financially easy either. But I felt called to do that because I wanted more, there to be more in the fight, but not necessarily as a direct representation of an adult entertainment website, but just as a service provider, to the industry. Hoping perhaps that since my presence online is not offensive by anyone in its native state, that maybe this would help our messages to be heard a little bit more clearly with less noise.
I asked you that question, Brad, because I had to smile when I went on. We're on an industry list together, and I went onto that list to thank Brad for his support, and the response was one email after another from people thanking Brad for his support of them. You are an advocate without being necessarily in front of the camera. And that, by the way, shameless plug for support for Woodhull, FSC, the organizations doing the work. One of the good reasons to donate to the organizations that will step out and put their necks on the chopping block is so that you don't have to. You support them and they do it. I'm being mindful of the time. Corey, what do you think the next big issue is for the adult industry?
The next big issue is we're in the issue right now. Age verification is the hot issue. It's going to continue to be the hot issue. It's only going to expand. This is not going away overnight. The reach of what a lot of these states are trying to do is incredible. Right now, we have a new suggested bill that's been brought in Michigan, right here in our home state, to outright ban pornography. I read the bill the day it was published. It's awful.
It's horrible.
It's absolute garbage.
27 pages.
It has no chance of passing. You know, in the current state of Michigan's government, first of all, the governor is never going to sign it. But regardless, the problem, Ricky, is that we're seeing that there is emboldenment going on. A lot of these politicians are getting emboldened by some of the decisions that they saw at the judiciary. So we had age verification. So now they're trying to push the envelope a little bit further. Let's go beyond age verification. Let's go for a full blown porn ban. And when you start, you know, seeing that absolute extreme, unfortunately, extreme leads to more extreme. I'm quite candidly, I was very surprised to see this come out of Michigan, my home state. We have much larger issues going on in Michigan, including a massive population decrease and jobs running out of the state of Michigan like we've never seen before. But apparently, instead of worrying about that, the state of Michigan has decided that they're going to, you know, they want to take on this porn issue. It's a horrible bill. It's unconstitutional from beginning to end. I don't see it really going forward, but you know, I'll be here, and you know, I'll be in a position where, if necessary, I'm prepared to argue or fight or do whatever has to be done, just because of how absurd it is. Unfortunately, Ricky, what you see though is when you see the extreme, this continues. I mean, we've seen, as you know, Ricky, we've seen some crazy stuff out of states like Utah and Kansas and various other jurisdictions where, you know, or even North Carolina. North Carolina's bill is just asinine. But there's a little bit of crazy, almost like momentum going right now, where it's almost like which politician can win the award for the craziest far conservative anti-porn bill. So I think we're going to see more of that. I wish I could tell you that, okay, this is it. You know, Michigan's going to be the last state to come up with something crazy like this, but
Nope.
It's not. We're going to see more. There's going to be, you know, a lot of it. And, but I do believe in swings. You know, I believe, Ricky, you know, over the course of history, you know, we've watched various different political parties dominate, you know, and during that time, we've seen far extremes. Unfortunately, what's happened now in the US is that you have extreme right, extreme left, and everyone and anything who's in the middle of that is being completely left out, neglected, and almost silenced. So I actually believe having two sides, both being one extreme right, one extreme left, is terrible. And it's only going to lead to more very aggressive, one-sided bills that are really just, you know, politicians trying to motivate their voter bases and get people all fired up versus actually passing laws that would be good or actually help anyone. Because I can tell you right now, none of these do.
Agreed. You know, the first age verification law was in Tennessee, right?
No, Louisiana.
Louisiana. I had both in my head. But it wasn't the first time an age verification law was presented.
No, Louisiana actually had done it before and lost. And under prior judges and such, fortunately the industry was victorious in that battle. Sadly, you know, years past, the makeup of the judiciary in that particular district changed, politicians changed, and, you know, here it was again. And unfortunately, this time we were not on the winning side of it. So, but no, this isn't new. You know, this concept, Ricky, has been going on for as long as I can remember being in this industry. And, you know, one thing that I can tell people, especially those who are listening, you know, again, remember that, like, it's always something, you know, it's 2257. That's going to kill us. The TGPs are going to kill us. The tube sites are going to kill us. Copyright infringement is going to kill us. FOSTA SESTA is going to kill us. You know, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on. But there is a pattern here, and the pattern is perseverance. And so my message is, yes, things are hot. Things are red hot in terms of trying to silence us, but we have persevered as an industry. We will continue to persevere as long as we stick together and as long as we fight and make sure that our minority voices are heard. Once we go silent, that's where, you know, the catastrophic consequences can come into play.
Thank you. And I want to thank you both for joining me this afternoon. Brad, you're my friend, and you do such wonderful work in and for this community. I'm grateful personally. I'm grateful on behalf of Woodhull. I'm always so pleased to be with you. And Corey, what can I say?
That's all you got for me?
No, you always make me smile. You always tell the truth. You do something that I can so relate to. Where it's appropriate, you bring humor into the conversation. You make the law digestible, and your passion inspires me every day. Better?
I appreciate you saying that, because no one's going to like me for my looks, so my humor is all I got.
Hey, I suffer from the same thing. Thank you both for being here. I want to thank our ASL interpreters, Kelly and Bailey. Notice how we have two interpreters whose names rhyme so perfectly. That was a long search.
I love that, Ricky, and I love it because I have a hearing disabled sister, and love seeing this going on.
Thank you. So thank you all for joining us today. You can find our recordings on YouTube, on Instagram. If you like this program and you want to see more programs like it, please go to Woodhull Foundation, WOODHULL foundation.org, and click on the donate button. You can find Corey. Corey, why don't you tell people where they can find you?
Sure. Best place to get a hold of me is going to be online. My website is myadultattorney.com. I'm also on social media. Again, same thing. X, best way to find me at myadultattorney.
Brad, where can people find you?
Everywhere on the internet, MojoHost, MojoHost, mojohost.com.
Perfect. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.